Hey, welcome back to the Depleted Key Podcast. This is episode 15. Today is May 23rd, 2021. I'm Tarithal, and joining me as always is Spoogy.
What's up, dude?
Hey, man. How you feeling today?
Been tired. It's I work in education, and these next 2 weeks are just slap full for us. So
Oh, yeah?
been trying to
Why
get
is
my
that?
testing. You know, there's just so much mandated testing these days that we just get so busy. So my gaming has taken a hit this week, but yeah, it's been a rough week for me, but I think it's been a pretty good week for you, right?
Yeah, it's been okay. Like, work-wise, nothing really crazy, but we actually kind of had a slow week in WoW. Nothing really happened in between Tuesday reset and Thursday. The guild just kind of decided to take an easy week off. We're going to push Mythic SLG next week, and so this week we just kind of gave everyone the week off, and we decided to do a re-clear, which was really chill. We just did the first 6 bosses. I mean, we've down Council and Sludge at this point, but we're like, let's just get everyone 2 options in their vault, make everyone feel good for the week, and then Thursday we can kind of just chill. And so we ended up doing a heroic re-clear on Thursday, which we did everything, so that was fine. I got to do some bear tanking, which was fun. Always fun to do that. And I still have not gotten my trinket, which is very disappointing. But
The Sun King trinket is the one you're looking for, right?
yeah, I've been trying to get it for like the last 3 weeks, and I've been getting 3 vault rewards 3 weeks in a row, and have yet to get that trinket. So hopefully Tuesday, we did it again. So hopefully Tuesday I can finally get that cheat death trinket. But yeah, pretty chill week. However, Friday came around, and if you're listening to this episode anywhere near when we're actually recording this, you're well aware that the Great Push Proving Grounds are happening right now. And I actually took a team of 5 in there, and we participated in that. And so, yeah, we went in there we practiced a little bit on Friday. We only practiced 1 dungeon, and it was like the first time we had ever tried, our comp or anything like that. And we actually ended up, that was actually our first practice. And we ended up swapping characters a couple different times and trying new comps out. And people were playing characters they hadn't even played before, and specs they hadn't even played before. And so, yeah, it was kind of a learning curve in terms of pushing high keys. And then on top of that, people playing, brand new classes. But Saturday rolled around, and we ended up getting, into the Proving Grounds. And they gave us 2 random keys, right? And we didn't know what the keys were going to be. Everyone kind of thought Halls of Atonement would be one of them for sure, just because of how spicy the keys are. And, they were thinking Blizzard would really want everyone to watch all these teams try out these crazy strats and halls. But nope, that didn't end up happening. We ended up getting the 2 Kyrian dungeons. And so we got Necrotic Wake and Spires of Ascension. And I think they were actually pretty fair fixes.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It looks like Fortified Sanguine. And then Grievous.
Yeah.
For Necrotic Wake. And then the Spires is the one that got that unfortunate Tyrannical. But it's Raging Quaking, which is not that bad considering it's Tyrannical for the Raging.
With my experience this weekend, I'd say that Spires was actually easier than Necrotic. You saw a lot of higher Necrotic Wake keys. And specifically, those keys were done by people that brought a Shadow Priest and could abuse the cleavers throughout the dungeon.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's some cheese you can do, right? Once you get up to the Necropolis, you can mind control one of the cleavers, which typically you have to kill all the trash before there's like the trigger built into the game, right? To kind of progress further and eventually, allow you to actually fight the boss. But if you mind control the ad, it ends up tricking the game into thinking, okay, all the trash is dead, we can progress. And so people just essentially carry the cleavers throughout the entire dungeon, and then they end up clipping it up to the very top and killing the last boss with it. And you can push some really high keys that way. And
you clip it up to the top, though.
You just stay in combat with it, and then you take the portal and go up to the top.
And it pulls it up to you?
Yeah, you have to be standing like directly above it. But I think as soon as it tries to cast a throw cleaver at one of your teammates and it can't, it ends up clipping on top of you and evading for a second or two, and then you essentially put it in position where you want, and then allow it to throw cleavers at the boss. So,
okay. Did you tank in the Proving Grounds?
I did. I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So I brought and I think all the groups actually did this composition. So I brought my Demon Hunter, into Spires of Ascension, and then I actually played a Kyrian uh, bear in Necrotic Wake, which was a little bit different.
Okay.
And yeah, we ended up timing essentially a pair of 20s, which isn't exceptionally high, but I mean, considering our group hadn't practiced at all, we were playing a brand new comp, and on live we're not doing 20s, right? So for us, that was a pretty good achievement.
That's pretty cool. I was looking at it and I saw that some of the necrotic weights coming in were like I think we had what 328s come in.
Yeah, I mean, there's a substantial difference though. So there's essentially like the top 10 teams, I'll say, that are playing like the quote unquote meta comp, where they bring in the Shadow Priest. And if you do that, that just enables you to do all kinds of different things. You can do some different routing, because you can life grip someone over a ledge with an orb that you can use early. You can mind soothe one of the gatekeepers at the beginning and allow your team just to run by completely. And it allows you to pull different packs at the beginning, which is quite a bit more efficient. And yeah, they were running really high keys in like the top 10, but everyone below like the top 10 or top 15, they were pretty much in like the 20 to 23 range. So
Okay.
yeah, there were just a couple of teams that really stood out from the rest.
Well, and then I see the Spires of Ascension is pretty much effectively kind of going down about 2 keys lower than
Well, yeah,
necrotic weight.
that's your typical tyrannical kind of ceiling, right? You can only do so much on the
Yeah.
bosses, but actually, to be honest, we had never done the like meta Spires of Ascension route before. Typically, when I tank, I go left instead of
Mhm.
right, which if you ever watch the MDI, pretty much they always go to the right, and you have like the double Goliath pole, and typically there's a couple pats that pat around, and you try to like spear a bunch of them on top of each other, and there's some spice you can do in there, and we ended up trying that, and I think I'm just going to start doing that from now on because it really wasn't that difficult to figure out. And when we timed our 20, we could have straight up two chested the 20. Like it was actually very simple. We decided kind of to slow play it at the end, just pull one angel at a time. Take our time, make sure we kind of talked about cooldowns before each angel and what we wanted to do on the boss. But realistically, had we, probably if we went in there again, we would have two chested it up to a 22 key. So I don't know. Spires for me felt a lot simpler. Necrotic, some of the ads are just nasty, especially with Sanguine too. Some of the ads, if you don't move them or push them at exactly the right time, they go from 50% health back up to 100% health, and it's just like, oh my gosh, everything just
You know,
takes forever. But
you talk about that Spires route, and I pretty much healed exclusively for you
mm-hmm.
for the first, I don't know, half of the tier there. And so I got so used to that left that it just felt completely wrong going to the right, and it felt harder too because you do have those double Goliaths, and just I don't know. To me, it feels backwards to say that that's the meta route because that's so much what I'm used to is going that other way
Yeah,
because you always build all your routes going that way.
yeah. I think left is slower. For me, it's like more calculated. If you don't have a coordinated group, I feel like left is easier because it's fairly straightforward. There's like only one or two kicks you have to worry about. Where if you go to the right, there's like several kicks you have to worry about. You want to layer on, your beam from the druid. You want to group everything up, put a beam on it. Then you want to put like a cap totem from a shaman on it, and then you want to roar as a druid, DB as the mage, right? You want to like fill all that stuff into the gaps,
Yeah.
to try to interrupt things. And if you could do that, in a coordinated group, it feels perfectly fine and it's super fast. But I could see a lot of pugs wiping to some of the stuff we were trying in there. But and
No.
we're doing a spicy pull right off the bat too. We're pulling. So as soon as you walk in, you got the 3-pack and then another 3-pack, and then you have the bridge with the Goliath pats, and then on top of that you have another 3-pack.
Mhm.
We were pulling all of it to the very tippy top and melting it all at once, and that was
Like the entire thing.
yeah, the entire thing. And so that
Okay.
that was pretty fun. And honestly, we learned that in probably 2 pulls. It wasn't that difficult. We saw a couple of groups doing that. We're like, yeah, let's try that. And we probably learned it in 2 pulls. And yeah, on paper, it seems like it would be super sketchy, but honestly, it felt perfectly fine.
What healer were you running with? Like what class?
So we were actually running a pretty meta comp. So I was a demon hunter, and then we had Thick on a mage. We had Sarah on a boomkin. We had Lego on a elemental shaman, which he hadn't played before. And then we had Miss Blue healing on her paladin.
Okay.
And
I
so
guess, yeah,
yeah, it's about as meta as it comes. And then
yeah.
the Necrotic Wake, I swapped out the Venthyr, or I'm sorry, the Vengeance Demon Hunter for a Kyrian Druid bear. So
Was the Paladin healer what a lot of the top teams were using?
all of them, yeah, 100% of them. I don't think a single team didn't run a Paladin.
Yeah, that DPS is just too nice, you know.
Yeah, I'd have to click through, and I'm not going to do that now because you'd hear mouse clicks throughout the entire podcast. But yeah, I'm 95% sure almost every single team, if not every single team, was running that Holy Pally. There's no substitution for it.
Well, I'm kind of curious, kind of how the scoring system plays out a little bit. Um, so is it the first team to get a 28? Do they get like the most points out of it? And
No,
then
no. So it doesn't matter. You know, you could come in at the 11th hour and do all of your dungeons. And so how it worked is, uh, there's like this turnip floating around in Oribos on the tournament server, and he's called the Trial Master. And as soon as midnight hit, Saturday morning or Friday night, a quest appeared which gave all of the qualifier keys, and they started at 15, and it actually works exactly like it does in live. So if you time the key, it goes up. If you deplete the key, it goes down. And they set up a separate Raider IO page specifically just for the tournament. And so when you time the key, you essentially it tracks your team on Raider IO, and you don't get any extra score or anything like that. So if you actually look at the picture that we're both looking at now, so you can see like the top teams right now have a 54 score. And so it's just the sum of those two keys, right? So most of the teams right now are doing about a 28 Necrotic Wake and a 26 Spires of Ascension. And so the combined score of that is 54. And so I think like the top, as of this recording, I think the top 3 or 4 teams have a score of 54, and then the other 2 teams have roughly a 53. And so those are going to be the top 6 teams. But let's just say hypothetically, the top 6 teams all had a score of 54. Then it would go strictly off of how fast the dungeons were done. So if you completed the first dungeon in 30 minutes and then the second dungeon in 34 minutes, you need to have a total of 64 minutes done for the dungeon. And then if a team does 65 minutes, you obviously beat them. But it doesn't actually matter when your dungeon is completed. If I did mine on Friday or Saturday, right, and you did yours on Sunday, that's irrelevant.
okay, that makes sense. It was just kind of confusing to me. I figured, it was more based off because doesn't Raider IO do that as well as like a tier progresses, you get less points? Or am I
Mm,
thinking about that wrong?
I don't know, actually. I know the color changes, right? So if you were like 1200 rated IO, the first week of the expansion, I think you would have had that orange number, right? Because you were in like the top 1%.
Right.
And now if you have a 1200 IO score, I think you're like
Blue.
hardly even blue, right? Because that's like
Yeah.
nothing now. So I think it does separate people based on, it classifies your color based on what percentile you line up into. But it might throw you an extra point or two, but it's nothing substantial. I don't think.
Okay. Well, it's good to know that somebody could, take their time, perfect what they're trying to do, and then come in and just put down a really good run. Um, I kind of like this a little bit better than the whole MDI. Slam their face against it and see what
Yeah,
happens.
it's kind of stressful though because you don't want to deplete a key because obviously it goes down, right? And it doesn't matter what keys you end up with. They only count your highest key done throughout the entire qualifier.
Right.
That's the only one that matters. But for example, I was watching Echo just try to complete a 28 Necrotic Wake, which they ended up doing like 2 seconds before we started the podcast. But I saw them try it a couple hours ago, and they wiped on the very last boss on a 28. And then obviously it went back down to a 27, right? So they're just like, oh my gosh, I got to do a 27 now just to get that 28 key again. And then I'm pretty sure they wiped on that 27, so they had to do a 26 key. And then they had to push the 26 up to a 27 to do the 28, just to have another attempt on it again. And yeah, we kind of felt that in some of our keys. Not to that extent because we didn't play, hours and hours and hours. But yeah, I think we wiped on our very first Spires of Ascension 20. And then we had to do the 19 a key again, and I think we showed up the next day and tried it again and wiped on it, brought it back down to a 19, and then we eventually did clear it. But yeah, I
You
guess
definitely have to be tilt proof. and
Oh
compete in
no,
this thing.
there's a lot of tilt, and I'm sure all the top teams are tilted out of their minds right now. But
Yeah, it's got to be stressful, especially when you look at the scoreboard because now that Echo literally just now got that 28, that puts three teams tied right now.
I think does the Bear stream. I think they also timed to 26 SOA, which hasn't been updated on Radar.io. So I think there's actually 4 teams tied.
Okay, and that is Growl's team, which I'm low key cheering for them, just
Yeah,
because it's Growl, you know.
yeah. There's a couple popular names in each of these teams. So right as of this moment, Sheesh is number one, which is Hippo, and I believe Andy Brew's team. Skyline is a Chinese team, which I don't know. Obviously, I don't know any of their players, but they got that 28 and 26 done like within hours of this tournament starting. They were beyond everyone. They just blew everyone out of the water with how fast they got that done.
Well, they also their raid team is also like top, top five in the world, isn't it?
Oh, are they? I'm not sure, but yeah, they did.
I've heard the name. I know I've heard the name.
I'm not sure if it was a global release or not. Maybe they started earlier than everyone else, and I'm just not aware of that. Maybe they had a separate day for the Chinese or the Asia Pacific region, but yeah, they were. I mean, they crushed everyone. How quickly they got those keys done. Then Echo is tied for that position, and obviously that's the Echo team. Ambition would be Ellesmere's team, so they're currently in the top 6 in Nerf Tank. Does the Bear stream is obviously Dorky Bear and Growl. And then I didn't recognize any of the names in Team D, but they're also in the top 6 right now. But yeah, a lot of kind of the people you would expect to be in the top are in the top, so not real
Well,
surprising there.
well, Sheesh is looks like about a minute ahead of the Chinese team right now,
Mm-hmm.
which means they have to go in and either get a better time or do a higher key.
I think they're pretty safe. I can't imagine any other team sneaking in and pushing them down to 7th place, right? There's not that much time left. I think there's 3.5 hours left.
Oh, right. Top six will move on.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, they're going to be in the tournament, which I believe is next weekend. So, yep.
Okay. Do you think teams are just going to be play it more safe? Kind of get what they think is the points and then relax, or do you think they're going to keep pushing until that
Uh,
timer is done?
I think these teams specifically, I bet you they'll push all the way. Except for maybe Echo, they look like they were pretty drained. It's late there. I mean, I think when I watched them complete their key, I guess it would have been about 20 minutes ago at this point. I think it was already pushing 1:30 a.m. their time. So
Oh, wow, yeah.
I don't know. Some of those guys though don't have a sleep schedule, so who knows?
I see. I would have pictured they would have been first, honestly, because they've been working so hard and they just crush MDI so hard that I kind of figured that it would not even have been much of a competition between them and the next, couple teams. That I figured that they would have been like a clear leader.
Uh,
So
I heard.
this is kind of cool.
Yeah,
Cool to me.
yeah, it is for sure. It is cool. I actually heard that Ellesmere and Nerf Bear. I thought they had bragged about timing a 29 off stream of Necrotic Wake, but it's kind of a nasty week. It's sanguine, so you have to be like really precise on your movement. Um, in that dungeon specifically, having a Necromancer heal to full is not great. Some of that kind of
Oh
stuff
no.
is not good.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I think sanguine's probably slowing some people down a little bit, but obviously these groups are handling it pretty well.
And then how long does this round go? Do you know? Is it just this weekend?
Yeah, it ends. I think so. It's only a 2-day event, and I believe it ends in 2.5 hours, roughly, so, or 3.5 hours. I'm sorry at this point. So,
And
yeah,
then they'll have like a week break, and then next weekend these 6 teams will, or whatever 6 teams will move on.
yeah, they will, and it'll be really interesting if they. I don't know. It seems like they would have fixed the cleaver if they really cared about it, because I don't know if you saw this week, but Echo actually 2-chested a 30 in Plaguefall, and what they did is so there's a typical gauntlet cheese that you can do, right? So you can like literally pull the entire dungeon into that gauntlet and essentially just bomb it all with the plague boars.
Mhm.
But what they had figured out is before you get to the gauntlet, there's a couple of stray plague boars scattered throughout the area right before that.
Mhm.
And it turns out that if you use like a vortex, or I'm sorry, a cyclone on the plague boar right before it dies due to the explosion, it still does the explosion, but it just doesn't die. And so it just bombs over and over and over. And as long as you continue to cyclone it, when it goes to do that explosion, then you can literally just carry it throughout the dungeon and just bomb everything. And so they ended up taking the plague boar and just having it repeatedly bomb every single boss. They clipped it down to the bottom. They literally just carried it throughout the entire dungeon. And yeah, really funny run. If you get the chance to watch it on YouTube, they actually used 2 healers for the run because they didn't need DPS. They didn't need DPS, right?
Right.
So yeah, they ended up bringing another resto druid because that's part of the tournament rules is you can't stack classes, or I'm sorry, you can't stack specs. So they had a balance druid and they had a resto druid for 2 vortexes, and then they had their they had a priest I think for mind control purposes, and then they had Genji on the mage to poly the plague boar, to keep it healthy enough to move around. So yeah,
Well,
pretty funny.
what I think Blizzard does is something like that. I could see getting nerfed. I feel like some of the smaller cheeses, they just don't care. I think they want you to kind of figure those things out and exploit them.
Maybe.
But because like some of those other cheeses have been in since the beginning of the tier, but then some of them do get patched in. I'm thinking more specifically like was it Legion? Where you
Hmm.
could teleport through the floor,
Hmm.
you get a huge advantage, and they patch that. So
Well, the
I
plague
don't,
boars are getting patched. They've already said 9.1 they will get patched, but it's kind of surprising that it's going to be allowed in the tournament because that's super cheesy. Like that's
it
super
is
cheesy.
that is, but clever,
Sure.
but it's cheesy as crap. Um, it almost it's getting up to there to the point where it's like, you know, is this what we want to see in these, high level competitions,
Hmm.
versus people, just plowing through the dungeons and doing it, or clever mechanics, like what would you rather see on that high level play?
Right. The dungeons were a little buggy this weekend too. We had the first boss in Spires. We had it bug out a couple times where it would just fly around and never, it goes to that intermission and flies around,
Mhm.
and it would just never land. And so you could just kill the bird the entire time, and then eventually the boss would die, and you didn't have to do any mechanics. And so
That's kind of nice though.
yeah, that happened a couple times actually. And then we had one of the angels up top not give us any credit towards our 100% milestone. So so yeah, I think we ended up timing the dungeon anyways, but we had to jump off the cliff and then go get trash elsewhere. So that was kind of annoying.
That's
But
unfortunate.
and then I had a couple of prides bug out in Necrotic Wake where they just spawn on a cliff or something like that, and then they snap down and evade, and but they'd start off with 5 stacks or something like that. So yeah, some weird stuff going on this weekend. Not perfect, but
Well, I am glad that Blizzard is starting to pay a little bit more attention to the 5-man content and
mhm.
making it fun like this.
Yeah,
Really great little thing they're doing here. So I'm kind of interested to see how it goes, and I am glad to see my boy Growl doing well.
yeah,
I don't know why. Like I've watched him since he was literally a nobody,
hmm,
because I was learning Resto Druid at the time, and he was the only guy doing Resto Druid back then in BFA. And I don't know, he just was always just calm, talking about Resto Druid, why he was doing what he was doing, and it's like boom, all of a sudden he's like the one of the big names this expansion. So
hmm.
it's kind of weird and awesome at the same time, but good to see them doing well. I mean, they're right there at it. They're tied. Looks like for first.
Yeah, yeah. I think those teams are essentially locked in. I could see maybe number 6 getting pushed down because they're only 52, where I think it's reasonable for maybe a couple teams to sneak in 53, 54, combined key score. But I
Yeah.
think I think the top teams, that are sitting at 54, I don't think anyone's going to pass them in the next 3 hours. So
No. Plus, I didn't even realize it was that close. As far as the time goes. So yeah, that's probably pretty locked in.
yeah, but kind of cool though. This week's affixes on live are actually tyrannical, raging, quaking, and prideful, and that's actually what they ended up doing in the Spires of Ascension. And so a little bit of a overlap there. I think as far as tyrannical weeks goes, I think it was actually a pretty good week. I think raging, quaking on a tyrannical week is probably the best tyrannical week you could ask for.
Yeah, the raging. If you're ready for it, if you've got people in your composition that can handle it, it's not too bad. And quaking with those uh, weak R's shouldn't be too bad. Once in a while, it would always get me when I'm healing.
Hmm.
Start spamming some spells and just kind of zone out and kind of zero too far into the health bars. It's got me before as far as like canceling and put me on a little wait timer there, but not too bad. Did you get any big keys done?
I spent most of my time pretty much just playing on the tournament realm, so didn't really get a chance. I did end up doing an 18 Halls of Atonement yesterday. I think we're actually in between doing stuff in the tournament realm. I think everyone kind of stepped away for lunch, and I jumped on, and our friend Lamali was doing a key and actually invited me. So yeah, I got to do 18 Halls of Atonement. And it was actually kind of funny because we were practicing halls because all the streamers were saying, oh, halls is like almost guaranteed to be one of the qualifier keys, and so we went really hard, and we're actually practicing 23 halls, over and over and over and over and over. Yeah, we were getting pretty good at it, and then I got invited into this low 18 halls, and dude, I like completely forgot like what a pug route looks like because we're pulling literally 20% of the dungeon at the start on top of one of the shards, which we get a pride, and
Left or
then
right?
left. Yeah, we went
Okay.
left. We get 20% there, and then we go down and do the other shard, and then we pull like another 20%, and spawn our 60% pride. We jump off the ledge, and then we pull another 20% onto the boss and do the boss like that. It was like 19.7% or something like that. So we literally end at like 79.7% that we kill on top of the boss. And so we were just doing like these nutty pulls in the 23. And then I go into this pug key, and dude, I couldn't even like remember what pugs do. I'm like, because I know if I try any of that stuff in a pug, I'm gonna get flamed. Because no one's gonna be expecting that. But
Did you do it on the bear or the?
yeah, I did it on the bear. I figured that's the bear and halls are just like peanut butter and jelly. Like I don't know, play a bear. If you're gonna play bear, specifically Halls of Atonement, it just feels so good because you can pull 20% of the dungeon at a time. As long as you have your incarn rolling, you're unkillable.
Yeah, bear is in such a good spot right now, and I'm kind of curious how it's going to play out with the new legendaries coming in. But I mean, we've had some viewers asking us about tanks and got them on bear, and they're loving it. So um,
Yeah, and I played the Kyrian bear for the tournament, and I was surprised how good that actually felt. I think you can go Kyrian, Venthyr, and Night Fae pretty reliably without any kind of regret.
yeah,
I think the three of those feel really good. I haven't tried Necro, and admittedly, I don't even know what the ability is. I know you obviously get Fleshcraft, which is okay, um, for a tank, but I'm not even sure what the bear necrotic ability is.
you have to remind me about the Kyria. Isn't that the one that like boosts somebody else up?
Yeah, so as a tank, I kind of think about it as who's that? Is it Callista in League of Legends, the one that throws like the sword down and like connects you to a partner, right? And then
Yeah,
you pick them up and you throw them at someone. It's kind of like
right.
that where you're connected with someone and you can activate your beam, like your connection with them. And when you activate it, if you're a bear, you get more defensive and your partner gets more defensive. But then if I'm like connected to a healer, I think their healing heals me more. And if I'm connected to a DPS, we both get a damage amplification. It's like a 15 or 20% boost. So it's like a upgraded Night Fairy kind of thing, or Night Fae fairies that the priests give to people. It's like a better version of that.
Okay. I've only seen like one other person play Kyrian Druid so far, just because everybody went Night Fate at the beginning of the expansion,
Hmm.
and so I'd seen it, but I'd almost forgotten a little bit. And to be honest with you, I could not even remember what the Venthyr one is. Oh, I
It's
know.
just damage, pretty much. Just like
Listen,
raw
well,
damage.
you got to stay busy. You got to keep casting or something, or else
Yeah, yeah,
you get CC'd, which doesn't sound too appealing to me. But
yeah. It was really funny though, just watching all the cheese everyone was doing on the PTR or on the tournament realm. And so specifically, what I was doing is I was taking the sleeper legendary for the bear, which gives your incarn, like while you have incarn active, you get like a 30% damage boost and like 15% leech or something like that. And so I was precasting Incarn before the pull, but I had a macro that would precast Incarn with that legendary equipped, and it swapped to my other gear set. And it was like you do it 1 second before you activate the key. And so you have the correct legendary on, but your pre-Incarn carries through, for the first like 30 seconds of the key. And so obviously, the first pull of the dungeon is typically like your huge Mondo pool, in most of the dungeons.
Right.
And so I would use like the sleeper legendary, which gave me a 30% damage boost. Plus I had, everyone else pumping right there. And so it's just like little cheese like that, just to like min max, right? But
Yeah.
it's kind of fun doing that stuff.
Kind of reminds me of giving the old Demon Hunter a countdown, beginning of the key,
Yeah,
just for
yeah.
that extra little boost right there at the beginning for a couple seconds.
Oh, we're all doing that though. I mean, like we had our Ellie Shaman. We were pulling a pack before we pulled so he could get his Maelstrom out early. We had Miss Blue on her Venthyr Holy Paladin, and she was spec'd into the Venthyr tree that has tea time. So when you cash Ashen Hollow, if you step in the Ashen Hollow, you get like 6% versatility if you're running tea time. And so if you do that before the pull, that carries over for like 30 or 40 seconds. And then we had our Boomkin doing his Celestial Alignment or whatever it is, pre-pull. And so, yeah, pretty much everyone was popping something before we actually put the key in which, carries over for the first like 30 seconds or so.
So was your Boomkin running treants for it?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, have to.
Yeah. Well, next week is going to be a pretty good week. It's Fortified, Bursting, Volcanic, and Prideful, which I think this is the third rotation back to this particular set of fixes, right?
Yeah, and I believe it's the number 1 push week. So that's almost unfortunate because all the guys that really care about that are going to have to be practicing for, the great push. And so the alignment of that is really bad. But yeah, I think that's technically the number 1 push week, according to most people.
Well, for everybody else, it'll give them a chance to get some more IO.
Sure.
Right there at the end of the tier. Because we're not looking for much longer, are we, for this tier before Sanctum?
So I believe there was a leak of, I think it was like June 27th or June 29th or something like that. It was like one of the Chinese articles, but I think most leaks that come from the China region are pretty reliable.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what the last one was. It might have just been like the Mythic Plus system in general, I think, or maybe the Shard of Domination, actually. Maybe that entire leak was...
we did get that one from them, because I remember looking at the graphic there. But so probably looking at maybe like a month left.
Mm-hmm.
So getting right there at the end, and then everything's going to reset, and we'll have that new Mythic system in place, right?
Yeah, kind of interesting. And I don't know if you heard this, but they've officially tied Keystone Master to a number score now, so it's not a fixed dungeon anymore. So you don't have to do all 15s anymore, is what I'm getting at. So I believe it's like a 2,000 score is Keystone Master, and the way it works is you get a separate score for Fortified and Tyrannical, and I believe you get 100% score for your highest, and then you get a 40% ratio for your lower of the two. So let me reword that. So let's say you do a 15 Plaguefall, right, on Fortified, and that gives just hypothetically 200 score. And then you do a 14 Plaguefall on Tyrannical, and that gives 100. That would give 40%. Or I'm sorry, if you do, that would give 40% of its normal value. So if a 14 typically were to give 100 score, and then it's the lower of the two, out of Tyrannical or Fortified, instead it would give you 40 score. So if you do all of the dungeons, if you're missing a dungeon but you have a pretty high score in both Fortified and Tyrannical, most dungeons you could still get Keystone Master without completing every single dungeon.
I kind of like that because, in one sense, it's fun to kind of chase down and get that 15 across the board to say, hey, I've done it,
Mm-hmm.
But right there at the end, when you're trying to get Keystone Master and, you've been pushing and you hunting a specific key, that is to me is the frustrating part. Like I know how many of our friends needed a 15 the other side.
Yeah.
For example. So it's kind of cool that I guess you could technically get the points elsewhere just by spamming keys.
You could, but they also announced, and I know you've kind of been away from WoW this week, but they also announced you're actually going to be able to trade in your keys now. So if you were to complete a dungeon, if you and all your friends have 15 keys and you finish a dungeon on time, there's going to be like a new vendor that appears that allows, I think, one party member to swap out their key for a different key.
Okay. And can you like will all keys be available like all dungeons or
I don't know if
just like
it's yeah, I don't know if they've mentioned that yet. If it's going to be, you get to pick the key. I think it's going to be as if back at BFA where when you like deleted your key and then you finish a dungeon, you got a new key, new random key. It's probably going to be more like that, but maybe you get to pick it.
no, that's better than having to deal the current system. So
Sure, if you have 5 sanguine depths, obviously you're not going to want to run 5 sanguine depths, right? So
right, yeah, you're stuck with it unless you want to, knock it down and try to get something else.
hmm
But I don't know. I just appreciate when they start paying more attention to the 5-man content because to me that's where you can get together and get more done versus having to wait for those raid nights where you got to
yeah,
coordinate 20 bodies at a time. So
yeah, I'm pretty torn. I hope they release the new. They're not going to, but I hope they release the new season like the week before the raid comes out. It would be cool just to have like a full week where you didn't have to get interrupted by the raid in order to go in there and kind of push the new affix up. But it always seems weird to me when we have to raid 2 or 3 days the first week, and well, everyone there's other people that are dedicated to just doing the Raider IO thing, and it's one of those things where you don't want to get behind in that, right?
right.
Because having that shiny score means a lot when actually trying to get into groups.
Oh yeah, they've done experiments. I think Preach was the one that did an experiment where he spent like 1,000,000 gold on one of his buddies
hmm
and to boost his IO up. Not IO, his gear score
Yeah,
up
his gear score.
to about 220, and he had his buddy who actually had been playing this one tune and had a great IO score
hmm
with a lower eye level. And they tested it out, and it was almost like every single time people will choose that Raider IO versus gear score any day. So if you get on it at the very beginning of the expansion, even as a DPS, which is hard to get into groups, um, that IO is just jumping on it early. It's so hard to play catch up. You have to have friends that will essentially kind of carry you, even though you're not really getting carried, but just getting that invite to the group to get some IO up on your record.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad about that too. I've had even like guildies mentioned a couple times, like they can't get into 15 groups, like just for like a 15 key,
Yeah.
to finish off their KSM. And I'll mention it to them, like, man, you have to have the IO score. And oftentimes they'll respond and say, my IO score is not even that bad, and I'll look at them and it'll be somewhere in between like 1100 and 1300. And sure, I mean that's what you need for the key, but I mean people obviously always want the key plus 200 score or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy at the end of BFA. You're trying to do a 15, but you got somebody who's got orange IO coming in and just insane gear scores just because they want to do keys.
hmm
And they're always going to get invited over those people who don't have that. So,
Yep.
so it's tough, but I don't know. But speaking of raid, with that in mind, if we're looking at coming in, so we're currently at May 23rd. That gives us about a month left of prog left before the new raid comes out.
Yep.
What are the thoughts on that? Because we still have two bosses left. We still have Stone Legion Generals, and then we have the Nathrius himself.
Yeah, I don't know. Admittedly, we're gonna go in tomorrow. No, today is Sunday. We're gonna go in on Tuesday and try SLG for the first time. And I'm one of the raid leaders, and in my mind, I kind of already understand how the fight is built. But it's one of those things like the fight is it's about timing things correctly, which obviously every fight is, but specifically this fight, there's not really a DPS check. It's not really even all that healing intensive. It's just about doing things at the right time. So it's, popping your 2-minute cooldowns to burn the ads at the appropriate time. It's, putting the Goliath down, what is it, 20 or 30% to freeze him in place before he does a certain jump on someone at a specific time. It's clearing the heart rends during the crystallizes with certain cooldowns at the correct times. It's pushing the intermissions while certain things aren't happening right. You don't want one of the eruptions going off while you're pushing it. You don't want your wicked blades going out, as people are getting knocked back. There's just a lot of small things in trying to convince 20 people to do something exactly how my mind thinks it should be done. That's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a communication challenge, I think, from me to communicate that to everyone else, and then kind of running an analysis after the raid to see what needs to be worked on. That might be a challenge too. But I think we have good people. I think the people that are still here, most people still want to, aim for CE. So I'm optimistic, but I don't know. How do you feel about it?
On paper, CE itself before that month,
Mm-hmm.
just going off the last two bosses, which would have been Council and Sludge, it seems like it would be a very, very, very tight race because this fight has a lot of the things that we hated off of Council, but we still took probably close to about the same amount of time as on Sludge. But Sludge was hard for different reasons, in my opinion.
Right.
And can we do it? Well, for sure. But the time we have left,
Yeah.
it's going to be tight just because we spent about a month, I think, on Council alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say it was about a month. Maybe 3 weeks, so maybe less than a month, but still, you get Stone Legion Generals down, which is supposed to be much harder than the previous two. And in fact, isn't it supposed to be harder than Nathrius himself?
It was supposed to be harder pre-nerf. I don't know now. People still think about everyone complaining about it at the start of the expansion.
Yeah.
And you don't really get a lot of good takes on it now. Just from watching people go through and do re-clears, they typically have a wipe or two. I don't think it's really that big of a deal for the people that have consistently been doing it. I don't really have any takes from people that have, newly progged on the fight. So not really sure.
Well, I did see Nathrius got another nerf.
Yeah, as soon as Ian has a Costas, as soon as his guild killed it, it got nerfed again.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
I saw a nerf came in, and I was like, oh, well, that's good. But then again, we do have that one hump, so I don't know. It's kind of curious. That the timing's just going to be very, very, very tight between now and then.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping people get something out of their vault this week, because last week honestly felt kind of like a waste of time. I think we should have been progressing on SLG, but we kind of had promised 7 weeks ago that as soon as we got Sludgefist down, we'd have a week off. Yeah, we were just kind of making good on that, but I think we're cutting it a little close now.
But, yeah, Sludgefist was, I don't know, it was a very frustrating fight because it was so perfectly timed out, I mean, it was minute to pillar, type deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a short fight, which I appreciated. So we didn't have to spend, 11 minutes to watch that one thing go wrong. But it was just always so tight, as far as that DPS check.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the kill, it was just all of a sudden, everything just snapped into place,
Yeah, and that's the thing too. There's always stuff when you're progressing, and specifically when you're raid leading. There's certain things that I don't talk about because in my mind I just feel like it's kind of common knowledge. And that's not a diss at anyone or anything like that, but it's just I don't know. In my mind, there's a lot of things that shouldn't have to be explained, and there's a lot of things that I feel like after 5 or 10 pulls, it's something we really shouldn't even screw up or even talk about ever again. Like for example, Dark Recital. I don't. That's a mechanic that once you see it a couple times, is like okay, that makes sense. But 80 pulls down the road, we're still having issues with it, and so I could see I could see SLG being the same way, where there's just something that I don't even think is going to be an issue, where it ends up being an issue, right? Whether it be the Wicked Blades, cleaving everyone in the raid because people just aren't standing in the right spots. I'm sure there's going to be things like that are just not anticipated. And so,
My AOTC group, Wicked Blades were always an issue, even after the fight was on farm.
yeah,
People would run out and do their things, but then, like, say, melee or tank would position incorrectly, and you end up cleaving like 4 or 5 people, and you're just like, come on, like, we know that this how this mechanic plays out, which way we told our people to go. We even have markers that they're standing on specifically. It's like the guesswork should be out of it at that point. But
yeah.
that's just one of the downfalls of coordinating 20 bodies at a time. Just
no, it's not like it's not that like anyone particularly is like stupid or something like that, right? It's just you have to be on the same page, right? You have to have 20 people who all understand what everyone else's role is, right? And it's
focus is another thing, right? Like
yeah,
I am totally guilty of that. Like beginning of a raid night, you're going to get the best out of me, and then the closer we chug to 3 hours in, my brain starts to get tired. I start to defocus a little bit. I mean, there were times where I just straight up got hit by the stuff falling from the ceiling in Sludge Fist,
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
I did too. I did too. Sure.
And there was actually one pool, like right before the kill. It didn't actually kill my partner, but I fit in a tranquility right there between the 3rd and 4th pillar on Sludge. Just because it's so healing intensive, and I try to keep us as healthy as we can, so we have as many DPS up as we can for that last little push,
Mm-hmm.
And so I had it timed out pretty good where I could get a tranquility in. And most pools, it is completely fine. But, we're in that last little section of the room, and if, the stuff coming down can sometimes kind of RNG me a little bit. And it just happened to be one of those things where I had like a Venn diagram falling on me. And it was like, I cannot run any which way right now without getting one shot. And I blinked. I did the Night Fae soul shake, which is one thing you don't want to do when you're chain linked to somebody. And it just so happened that like I blinked into the wall towards my partner. And then like I'm thinking about it afterwards. I'm like, why did I do that? Like I don't know. Like I saw that I had to get out of there, but my brain completely defocused off the fact that there's a mechanic there to keep me from doing that. And I don't know, it ended up working, but I ended up messaging. It was actually 4.
Yeah.
I sent him a message. I'm like, "Did you see that?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Good."
Yeah. But I think we're both looking forward to it, and I like harder content. I wish we weren't so late in the tier while we were kind of walking up to this, but even doing like the practice for the Proving Grounds, which was this weekend. Doing those keys at a high difficulty is a completely different animal, right? If you go in there and try to do like a 23 key, you'll learn stuff about the dungeon that you didn't even know was like an issue at all, right?
Yeah.
Frontal cones that you didn't even know existed, casts going off, hitting you for 20k per cast, but there's like 3 ads casting it, right? So people are getting one shot. And if you really want to enjoy the game, you got to challenge yourself, right? And so, for me, anyways, it's been a lot of fun working on that and learning new things about the dungeons that I didn't even know were issues, right? And I think that goes along with rating as well.
I mean, for example, I never knew that there was a fox in the Ardenweald dungeon. I can't remember the name of the dungeon.
Missive, yeah.
Yeah, Mist. Little dude that just runs around and chomps you for like, I don't even know how much, but like he can dang near one shot you, and maybe higher keys he could if you don't pop something. But I didn't realize that guy was a thing until we started pushing harder content. And the same thing with the raids. I really do appreciate the harder content raid because I spent a good chunk of this tier raiding with a different guild. and a good chunk of them had never raided before, and it was
Yeah.
almost kind of like a fun thing for me. Like I'm, you know, being more relaxed this tier. I'm, teaching people some new things and kind of, you know, helping them along. And then once I stepped up into the mythic content, it got different. It
Hmm.
was a totally different ball game, but it was fun on a different level.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just more to pay attention to, right? And that's really what it comes down to, right? You're having to micromanage more things at one time.
It's a
Um,
much less yellow and more coordination on like the entire team level.
sure, sure. That's more enjoyable for everyone. I mean, even we did a 20 necrotic wake earlier today, and we wiped on the last boss with like, I don't know, probably 20% left, and we had like two hammers up, and a couple of us just got rooted in place, and we didn't have like enough dispels to get rid of everything. And kind of tilting, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, it's still a blast getting in there and trying to do, high keys and um,
For sure, yeah.
kind of learning things one step at a time, even if it is time consuming. But it's definitely more enjoyable than just YOLOing your way through a 15.
Oh, yeah. Um, the other big news, I guess, that is out right now that a lot of people are really into is the Burning Crusade Classic. The pre-patch came up now.
Yeah, it's a little surprising to me because I thought people were kind of infuriated when Blizzard started charging microtransactions for essentially everything,
Yeah.
related to BC. And yeah, I logged onto live for just a couple minutes today, and I saw most of my friends list was actually playing it. So
Um,
maybe there's some hype
B-
there.
BC was considered one of the better expansions. A lot of good stuff got added.
Hmm.
For example, like arenas got added in BC, but I think a lot of people kind of miss that and are going back to it. But on a technical level, they had a lot of issues when they were trying to do it because they're technically taking classic and splitting it, right? And you had the option to I want to stay in just the vanilla classic, or I want to move my character up.
Right.
And I think that shuffle took down the servers for a couple of hours, and a lot of people got frustrated with that. And I mean, that's kind of like all I really remember from the classic launch was just not being able to get in.
Yeah,
Eh,
that's probably why we didn't play Classic, to be honest. I know I got in, but I logged in like to the login queue probably like 4 hours before you guys because I had the week off of work. But none of us could play with each other, and so we just ended up not playing.
No, no, I tried logging in that night, and I think I maybe got in for a few minutes, 4 hours later, and I created my hunter, got like a couple quests done, and then I think I had to go to bed or I got disconnected or something.
Hmm.
And then we never really quite linked up. I want to say I linked up with somebody one time to do some Barons quests, and then I mean I don't think that the two of us even actually were able to link up in game, and so I think it just kind of turned us off from Classic altogether.
Yeah,
But hopefully BC is a little bit more smooth, and I think if I was going to ever play any sort of legacy server, I think Wrath would be the one.
I could see that. I mean, that's where most of us met each other in our first guild was during Wrath of
Yeah,
the Lich King, and yeah, we had a blast doing that. So I could see that.
yeah. I've technically played on and off since vanilla, but I really didn't do much in-game content um, in either of those. I know my brother did a little bit of raiding in Sunwell,
Hmm.
but no, him and I just mainly because he was deployed, with the army, and I was much younger back then.
Right.
And WoW was kind of like a way we could, still hang out and connect. And so like I really didn't do too much of that in-game content until we get to Wrath, and I think that's where all my memories are, of the fun times. And again, yeah, that is where we met a lot of our friends. We met each other
Hmm.
in Wrath, so
Yeah,
I think
actually,
I'd be more hyped up for that.
yeah. Some of our friends actually reached out to me today asking if we were playing BC. I felt bad telling them no, we're not playing it. So
Yeah, like I don't know. Like the game has made so many good changes since then. I don't know if I had the time as an adult to deal with a lot of that grindiness, plus also balance retail on with that as well.
hmm.
So I don't know. But we do have, I think, a week left until the portal opens. So they're playing the pre-patch now, and June 1st, which would be next, not this coming Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, I believe the portal is supposed to open, and everybody can jump in on that.
That's pretty cool. I actually like how they did that, and yeah, I've been seeing some weird Wildhead articles about certain dungeons not having like the right player limit or something like that. Like they're just having like some weird bugs right now. So hopefully they get that fixed up and have a pretty clean and enjoyable Burning Crusade Classic. So
Yeah, I think launch kind of makes or breaks. For example, look at us in the vanilla classic,
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
so hopefully people really kind of they get that right, and but they are doing things that they've never done before, like literally splitting up servers and things like that to classic and
Yeah,
BC and
during COVID.
launching.
Yeah, during
Yeah,
COVID.
so we'll see how it goes, but
Yep. Other than that, I mean, this is kind of a filler episode for us because there's not a lot of new stuff going on. They have been doing some 9.1 raid testing. I saw a little bit of the mythic testing, which honestly, the mythic dungeon or the mythic raids look pretty hard from what I've seen. I think the Terror Grew is kind of a joke on mythic. The other one that I tested was Guardians of the first one, and the healing requirement in that looked insane. But maybe that's just because the gear level was too low. Because that is the seventh boss in the instance, and I'm pretty sure they had everyone tuned to like heroic level, and so it probably it's probably a gearing issue. But I saw some really good raiders go in there and just get absolutely whooped. So yeah, raid testing. I think the new raid is I think the first time through on heroic will be fairly simple, and then I think the mythic version is going to be insane. So we'll have to see
we'll
on that.
see. Have to see how it goes because I assume we're going to go into heroic first and try to clear that, and then
Yeah,
rotate into mythic.
yeah.
And Terragru is the first boss, right?
Yeah, we actually killed it on PTR. I mean, I think we technically wiped at 1%, but I'm calling it a kill because, I mean, we YOLO'd it in a pug group, and we got it to 1%. It was in the last phase where it's like chasing people around, and it's no longer even a fight really. It's just a zerg it till it dies. Like we didn't know it was gonna do what it was gonna do, and had we gone in there one more time, we would have killed it. So yeah, I think
Well,
sorry, good.
it's kind of expected, right? Because the first boss on Mythic is usually the easiest that just anybody goes in and does.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think the second boss, which is Eye of the Jailer, I don't think that one's going to be terribly hard either. I saw them do that on Mythic, and I think I saw a couple guilds actually kill it. So it's, yeah, I don't have a lot of expectation for the first two bosses, but after that, I think it gets pretty tough.
And I saw Limit Max was talking about how he got AMZ nerfed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they reworked AMZ on the PTR, and now it has an absorb cap of a certain amount of damage. So it's based off your health, and it's based off your versatility. And so on a DPS Death Knight, it's pretty trash now. But on a Blood Death Knight, it's actually pretty decent. So it'd be kind of interesting if people start bringing in Blood Death Knight just because, you still want to have AMZ. But even then, it might not be worth it.
I kind of like that change, to be honest with you,
Yeah, it's not bad.
because I play a class that offers none of that stuff. So it always makes me smile a little bit when the other ones get nerfed. Some of these, I don't think we really utilize AMZ too much in our group, but
Mhm. Well, we did
if you,
on console for sure.
yeah, oh yeah, you're right. Um, but like since I can't offer any of that stuff, it's kind of nice that some of the classes that sometimes are mandatory get knocked down a little bit,
Hmm.
um, or at least give me something. Give me a giant tree I can put down that absorbs something. You know,
Yeah, I think AMZ got nerfed, and I think Mistweavers got buffed quite a bit. I don't know if they're really going to be competitive. I think Revival got reworked, and so now it does like a secondary effect where I think it does like the Gust of Mist, which is just like more healing. We have an honorary Mistweaver that comes in and tells us Mistweaver is awesome, right? And he says like it's essentially like a lay on hands for every single person in the raid now. And I'm a skeptic. I'm not sure it's going to be that good.
Monk to me is like the one class they just, in my opinion, they have no idea quite what they really want to do with it.
Yeah.
and I feel like it gets reworked all the freaking time.
It's
It's fun.
it's fun though. I mean, I go into 15 keys and fist weave. It honestly, like, there's a lot of passives that I know do really good things, and I just ignore all of that, and I can still heal a 15 pretty easily. Like, it feels good. I like their kit. I just think revival feels bad, and I don't know. I don't like the channel ability that they have. I think that feels pretty bad.
I have not actually healed on a Mistweaver for several expansions. I want to say it was like Black Rock Foundry,
Mhm.
maybe was the last time I actually tried it. And I didn't like it at the time because it's almost like you were a little bit behind on everybody else. And then you hit the revival button and you shoot to the top, but then, there it was. That was your thing. And that was it. Make sure you press it at the right time to get the most out of it, and certain fights you may not even have the entire raid group get that low to where you get the most out of it.
Mhm.
And so it'd be very frustrating at the time, I remember. So I ended up swapping off of it. But I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah, it feels like a very snipey ability, and I don't know.
Oh, it is for sure. It is.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like again, I'm using like old data, but like their actual like healing output otherwise just did not feel good. I feel like you were behind everybody else, to kind of make up for that gigantic spell you had. And so you did have to snipe with it to get anything out of it.
But anyways, yeah, what this podcast is wrapping up to is Lego play a better class, stop playing Mistweaver.
For
But
sure. Yeah.
but anyways, yeah, it's probably gonna be a little bit of a shorter episode. It's mostly me rambling about the Great Push because there's not really a lot going on outside other than that.
No, expected because we are right here at the end of the tier. Um, this content right now is drying up, but they are loading up some new stuff for us. So it's almost like a little bit of a wait game right now for the next month or so.
Yep, but other than that, you want to shout out our Discord and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, check us out on YouTube. You can find the Depleted Key podcast, and from there you can get our Discord link and come talk to us. We have a couple people come talk to us, and it's been fantastic. So come give us a shout out.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening with Spotify, but I think we're actually getting recommended there now, which is very cool. But
Yeah, the viewership has definitely jumped up a lot, and I appreciate. We gear this towards people who are at work, and they just want to hear some wow stuff, in the background while they work. 'Cause that's how we listen to podcasts. So it's always great when you guys come and give us some feedback about it.
absolutely appreciate it. But other than that, I think we're gonna wrap it up. Thanks for listening.
Have a good week.